Her speeches are so short, though. They don't last long. You know, they're like 10 minutes, let's get out of here. Go back home and go to sleep. 3 days later, she gets up and she does another one and goes back home and goes to sleep. Oh, boy, is ISIS hoping for her.
We have losers. We have losers.
Home of spam. Yes! Spend time with me.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the show. I am Andrew Lee. Pleased to be joined by Senator Dave Osmek.
Good morning, conservative infidels. And it is an early morning, but a beautiful morning outside.
It's this was a gorgeous week. I mean, Saturday was a bit rainy, but yesterday was amazing. And this morning, it's actually cool. I mean, I was a little chilly this morning.
If you went
August,
if you went up north of St. Cloud, it actually wasn't a bad weekend. It got a little rainy here and there. I was north of Brainerd, and we visited a couple of tap rooms, and we had a great time.
Anyone's in particular?
Oh, Jack Pine had a very nice, and I'm not a stout kind of guy, but they had a s'more stout.
Yeah.
And I had it, and I was, I do like at Dangerous Man, they have a peanut butter stout that I actually like.
Yep.
But that was good. And then we had one, and I forget what it was over at, it's the Railroad Yard one. Maybe it's a new one you haven't seen yet. It's the Old Burlington Northern. They rehabbed it. Oh, it's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Jack Pine's a fantastic brewer. We've had them on the Minnesota Beer Cast on a couple of occasions. And speaking of the Minnesota Beer Cast, do a quick plug. Minnesota State Fair, of course, starts this week, Thursday. The Beer Cast will be out there both Friday nights doing the show live. We've got a lot of cool guests planned. So make sure to swing by the Twin Cities News Talk booth. And we'll be debuting our new morning co-host. John Justice starts officially a week from today. It'll be his first show. Hey. But we are going to do a special show out there on Saturday this week.
Very fun. Very, very fun.
In the Sue Jeffers time slot, 3 to 5. It'll be me, Lump, and John Justice.
And I'm like low-key freaking out. I'm so excited.
Don't worry. You'll get over it. This too shall pass.
The novelty will wear off quick.
I'm so excited.
Speaking of Beercast, LTD made a new pineapple Belgian.
Yes, I'm aware. They were on the show this past week.
Oh, they were?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I have 2 growlers of that waiting at home, and I'm finishing up this diet, and I got 2 growlers waiting for me.
And we'll go ahead. I want to congratulate you because you look amazing.
Thanks.
You do look great.
You've been doing the Nutrimost that yes. I've been doing. I just finished. Friday was the end of my 40-day stint, and I lost another 40 pounds.
You're slowly disappearing before my eyes.
I know. I'm going to disappear more, too.
I'm so worried.
I could lose more, but the great part is dropping all the drugs. I dropped both of my diabetes drugs are gone. Both of my gout drugs are gone. And one I'm on half Lipitor. I used to be on 40 milligrams. Now I'm on 20, and I dropped the other blood pressure med.
Congratulations.
So, and they called me on Friday. The doctor's office said, "Stop the cholesterol drug right now." I'm like, okay, I'll stop. So it does work, folks. They're not paying me. I had to pay them, but they're not paying me. But it does work. It isn't easy, but you can do it.
Yeah, I find it honestly. I'm not even engaging in hyperbole when I say I've found it to be very easy because it's a plan and you have it right in front of you, and that's what makes it so easy. It's like, okay, here's your list of proteins, here's your list of veggies, here's your list of fruits. You mix and match. Here's your supplements, and go. You do that for 40 days. And I lost 80 pounds this summer thanks to Nutrimost.
Yeah, and
I feel amazing.
I found myself drinking more, and I still do now. I don't even like the taste of. There's a special pop you can drink. You can't drink regular diet pop.
Okay.
It's this Zevia stuff, and I found that I didn't even like the taste of that anymore. I've been drinking so much water now. I swear I'm growing gills.
Coffee and water.
Yeah,
it's basically all I drink anymore.
I feel fine.
I did enjoy. Since Friday was the end of my 40 days, I allowed myself to enjoy a couple of beers this weekend. So that was nice.
Yeah, and I had a couple taproom beers and a couple glasses of wine or more, depending on if you're counting me.
Depending on who, if you're listening, Dr. Shelton.
Yeah. They're sort of like dog years. You have to count them in your wine and dog years.
That is, of course, Senator Dave Osmek sitting in with me this morning. Got a big show on tap. Donald Trump came to Minneapolis Friday night, did a fundraiser, and things got a little crazy. Things got a little violent outside of this.
It's so disappointing.
I have not been here all weekend, so you're gonna be giving me new information here because I wasn't paying attention. I was at the cabin and I'm not watching nothing.
Good for you.
So it's great that we are so lucky to have you in studio to talk about it.
The luck is on.
It got a little violent. There were protesters outside, and if you listen to just like the local media, if you just paid attention to the Star Tribune or the Pioneer Press or NPR,
okay, we're listening to the liberals.
It was just they got a little unruly. That's all. It's a handful of protesters got a little unruly. But if you actually paid attention to people that were there, people that were at the event, people that were shooting video at the event, it got downright violent. It wasn't unruly. It wasn't just a handful of protesters just being crazy. It was violent. People were getting assaulted. People were getting spat upon. People were getting robbed. It was
robbed.
It was ugly. It was an ugly, ugly scene.
Protesters robbing people? I mean, that they really are liberals.
They were taking phones out of people's hands. They were taking wallets out of people's pants. And there's video of all this. You can find all the video. If you follow my timeline on Twitter, Andrew Lee TCNT, I retweeted a handful of videos. I've talked to 4 or 5 people that were at the event that experienced this, and a handful of them have agreed to come on the show today. So it's 7:30.
Oh, great!
At 7:30, we're going to talk to at least 4 people that were there. That were at the event. If you were there and you're listening, feel free to call in 651-989-5855 at 7:30. We're going to get into this. We're going to have them tell their stories. It's the type of stuff that shouldn't happen in this country. It just shouldn't happen, and it's disappointing that no arrests were made, from what I've been able to tell. This is secondhand information, so this is not confirmed or verified, but I'm hearing secondhand information from people that talked to police officers, and the police officers said, we've been told to just keep calm, we're not going to make any arrests, we've been told not to do anything, which is really, really disappointing.
My mouth is ajar here going, are you kidding me?
Very disappointing.
Well, let's get the random. What you really need, Andrew, and maybe you guys can work on this, you need a random excuse generator. Because sooner or later, we're going to start hearing the excuses. Now, if you remember back with Black Lives Matter people who decided they were going to shut down 94 after that gentleman died, unfortunately, they said, well, they weren't our people. Our people, our Black Lives people, they were just quietly marching down a freeway in the middle of the night with kids, if I'm not mistaken. And then there were people throwing bricks from the overpasses, almost hitting police people. So now I bet you that we're going to hear, well, those people who are the bad people, they weren't part of our group.
They were the outside agitators.
Yes, they were. Agitators. There you go. See, you need that random excuse generator that'll just keep coming up with new excuses for the liberals because that's what they're going to do. That's what they always do.
Yeah, you shouldn't be subject to violence and assault and being spat upon and having your property vandalized simply because you support a particular candidate for president. You don't see this type of activity outside of Hillary events. And they do this on purpose. They do this, they agitate and they get violent outside of Trump events so that they can create the image, that they can create the narrative that wherever Trump goes, violence ensues, as if it's Trump's fault. And I even I got into a couple exchanges on Twitter with people who were blaming Trump. So this is his fault. His rhetoric leads to this. Rhetoric is not an excuse for violence. No. It is not an excuse for assault. It is not an excuse for vandalism.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. That is not how things work in a country where we value free speech, where we value free the free exchange of political ideas, and that is not how things work here.
Whatever happened to the First Amendment?
But apparently in Minneapolis, that's it's tolerated.
And where are the police? Excuse me, if people are being robbed, if people are having cell phones literally taken from their hands or wallets being taken out of their pockets, those are called pickpockets. You normally lock those people up.
Yeah, that's a crime.
This is criminal activity.
Punching someone who's just trying to get into an event or get out of an event and get in their car and leave, that's a crime. that's something you get arrested for.
Yeah.
But not in the city of Minneapolis, not under our current political leadership.
Where is Chief Harto now? Where is she hiding underneath a table someplace? Yep, there it is. She's not running a police department. The protesters and the liberals and Mayor Hodges, Bicycle Betsy as she's been called,
Right.
she's running a town into the ground. If you want a colder Detroit, you're well on the path of doing that. And at some point in time, you have to, people who live in Minneapolis, when are you going to start looking at the fact that the Democrats have run that town exclusively for what, the last 40 years? Look how well that's working out for you. Boy, those schools are just doing a crack job, aren't they? Whoop, I shouldn't use crack in schools in Minneapolis because, frankly, there's probably a lot of it there because they're not enforcing the laws. Then they're not enforcing laws on people who are stealing and robbing people and assaulting people. You know, being spat upon, okay, you can make the case whether that's going to be something that's criminal, but for crying out loud, when you're starting to take phones and wallets, yeah, that's criminal.
Yeah, they need to start arresting people, and it's disappointing the reaction from Minneapolis city leaders, the reaction from the local media, sort of just playing this down. They got a little unruly. That's all. That's all.
Oh, we'll get into the media real soon on this one. I'm still looking forward to them explaining Tom Bach and his 4 funding mechanisms for Southwest Light Rail that the legislature has never seen.
We are going to get into that as well. Later this hour, we're going to talk about the death of the special session. I want to get your thoughts on it, Senator Dave Osmek. All that plus more, 651-989-5855. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope your day's getting off to a good start. Should be beautiful outside today. Yesterday was amazing. It's actually a little cool this morning for August.
I love this weather so much.
It's a great October morning.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, it almost starts to feel a little bit like fall. I am Andrew Lee. That is Senator Dave Osmek. In there pushing the buttons is Lump.
Good morning.
651-989-5855 is the phone number. Got a story here from Fox News. The editor of the major Louisiana newspaper that urged President Obama to cut short his summer vacation. that doesn't happen.
Well, he's going to have to cut back on his golf. What's he on, 200 or is it 300 rounds now in his presidency? We're losing track slowly.
His handicap is just going down, down, down.
If I played that much golf, I'd be on the PGA Tour, for gosh sakes.
To cut short a summer vacation to see the devastating flooding that has damaged roughly 40,000 homes, said on Friday that he's pleased that the president will finally visit the state.
Didn't we once upon a time have George Bush fly over Louisiana after Katrina and just get ripped to shreds? Meanwhile, President Obama continues to work on his 4 handicap and not bother to go down and see people. And heck, Trump was there before freaking Obama got, and he's being paid to do the job.
Yeah, it's been about it was about 11 years ago when Hurricane Katrina hit Louisiana, and you would have thought that President Bush at the time whipped up that hurricane all by himself.
Well,
just whipped it up out of thin air and sent it to Louisiana and sat at the White House, watched the whole thing on TV laughing about it. By the way, everybody reacted to President Bush's response. You had fundraisers on TV with celebrities saying President Bush doesn't care about black people. You had he just got savaged for years based on his response, or, the perceived lack of response, I guess is a better way to say it, to Hurricane Katrina. Yet here we've got, devastating flooding, people dying, homes being destroyed in Louisiana, and you're getting crickets from President Obama. He can't even be bothered to maybe skip a round of golf in response to this, and yet there's nothing. Nobody's upset about this. I've got a piece here from the Independent Journal Review that does a sort of a compare and contrast from President Bush's response to President Obama. And it talks about how Bush spoke directly to the nation prior to the storm. He preemptively declared a federal state of emergency in Louisiana at the request of the governor, which freed up assets and money in preparation for the storm. He coordinated directly with the National Hurricane Center, FEMA, the Department of Homeland Security, and all the governors in the area to prepare for the impact and prepare for the recovery. He cut his vacation short. in return to the White House. You remember, I remember, I'm old enough to remember when the media was just savage to President Bush over his vacations. Every time he went on vacation, it was a long story. President Obama's been on this permanent vacation, it feels like, for this last year of his presidency. And everybody's just, oh, isn't it great? Look he's playing golf again. He's playing golf with NBA stars. That's our president.
I could go off on this guy, but just remember, Andrew, Karl Rove does have the weather machine that he's got down on Key West. Right. So remember, we Republicans can control the weather because we bring it in when it's convenient for us. So just remember that.
President Bush was on the ground days after the storm, assessing the situation firsthand. He met with local federal authorities. He met with first responders. When the federal government response was rightfully criticized as slow and inept, President Bush jumped in. He installed new leadership in the form of General Russell Honor and Admiral Thad Allen, who didn't get, quote, stuck on stupid. Mm-hmm. Bush was harshly criticized in the media and by Hollywood celebrities for the federal response, accused of racism, but he took responsibility for the response, good and bad. He committed to rebuilding Louisiana. He signed legislation committing over $52 billion to revitalize the Gulf Coast.
Why did you use the R word? With the Obama administration, why did you use the word responsibility? Because there is no responsibility. It's sort of like a larger version of Governor Mark Dayton. No responsibility, no accountability. When you finally catch them with their hands in the cookie jar, remember they were going to put in for how many millions of dollars? It was like $2 or $3 million. They were going to run a fiber optic cable down Summit Avenue to connect the governor's mansion so that that the governor could surf the net so much faster with an optic fiber. You guys nobody remembers that one until we called them on it, and then they went, we're going to wait. I can't do that impression as well as other people can. But there is no responsibility. There is no accountability. There is no media that wants to inflict pain upon the comfortable, as they used to call themselves in the Fourth Estate. They don't want to go and I've chummed the waters trying to get them interested in asking tough questions from the Dayton administration. You can't do it. Mm-hmm. Why? They're too busy having cocktail parties with their buddies in the DFL, and everybody knows it. Everybody understands it. I'm going to get this out of my system before 7 o'clock.
You keep going. Meanwhile, when you look at President Obama, since the flooding has devastated Louisiana, he's played over 8 rounds of golf in the past, 2 weeks.
And just to remind everybody, after the first couple of years of the Bush administration, President Bush gave up golf because he didn't like to be golfing when people were in harm's way.
Right. This was shortly after 9/11, shortly after we started with the conflict in Afghanistan. This was before Iraq. He just flat out stopped police. I don't want to be seen playing golf when people have family members serving in combat overseas. He didn't feel it was appropriate, and he just flat out stopped. Yet the idea, the meme of President Bush being this avid golfer never subsided, never completely went away.
Let's jump ahead.
Remember Watch This Drive?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Remember that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Let's jump ahead.
Never went away.
Let's jump ahead 6 months. What's Obama going to be like when he's no longer president? He's going to be like America's house guest, going every place, playing more and more golf. And frankly, at least he'll be away from actual legislation. Right. Well, frankly, he's been such an absentee president so far anyway. What's the point now? He's not been around. And when he is around, he makes things worse. I mean, ask people about the ACA and ask people about MNsure. That's going phenomenally well, folks.
Right, exactly. According to the Associated Press, since the flooding has took place, President Obama has been keeping unusually late hours, going out on the town during his vacation on Martha's Vineyard.
Unusually late hours.
Unusually late hours. He's been going to hot spots around Martha's Vineyard. Lola's Southern Seafood Restaurant, cruising unusually crowded streets in downtown. He's been out on the town. He's been having a blast. Golfing, going to restaurants. He's hit the beach a couple times. According to one report, the presidential motorcade departed at 1:18 p.m. and arrived shortly after at a private beach in Edgartown.
This is called the victory lap. He's trying to get in all of these places while he still can make reservations as president of the United States, so that when he's gone and he can't get a burger at Burger King anymore without having to make reservations and wait in line like the rest of us schlubs.
And I get it. I mean, there is a federal response that happens,
Yes.
and it's not like the president needs to be intimately involved in every single decision with these federal responses. And even officials in Louisiana have said that the federal response has been decent. However, optics matter. Yeah. And when you've got, you had a city, you had Milwaukee that was on fire. You had a city that was basically a war zone for an entire weekend. And then you had another city in Louisiana that was essentially completely underwater. And the president there was nowhere to be seen. No statements to the nation, no addressing the nation, the optics of it are just horrible.
Half of your job as a politician, well, okay, maybe it's not half, but there's a significant portion of your job as an elected official is strictly optics.
Yes.
On what you do. It's whether you're a city councilman, whether you're a state senator, whether you're a sittings president of the United States. And the optics on things are sometimes more important because your optics allow you to be able to govern. And if your optics are crummy, your ability to govern is impeded.
Leadership. That's what it's all about. It's about being a leader, and that's been my biggest criticism of President Obama ever since his first term. Is regardless of whether you like his ideas, regardless of whether you like his ideology, or if you're a fan of his policies, he has been a terrible leader. He has been an awful leader. He's never used that platform as president to make things better. He's been terrible about putting the optics out there. We got to call Eric in Burnsville. Good morning, Eric.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment. Doesn't the president have a helicopter at his disposal? And how many roads need to be closed down to fly in a helicopter to see what's going on down there?
Yeah.
Well, he's got helicopters, he's got jet planes, he's got ski-doos, he's got Humvees, he's got everything. He's got everything short of a bicycle. He's got every mode of transportation available to mankind on demand.
Yeah.
He can go any place his little heart desires. And I'll admit this one, do I really think I need to have the President of the United States going to these places? No, but at least you can interrupt one round of golf and have some kind of a response and do something that shows that you're even engaged in the subject.
Yeah, it matters. And it would matter to the people in Louisiana to at least feel like the president is paying attention and is involved in the recovery efforts, in the rebuilding efforts, in getting them, out of the area and getting them to safety. And it doesn't seem like the president is involved at all. And Donald Trump went there. Donald Trump visited Louisiana, and they got some probably fair criticism for it in terms of, it diverts police, it diverts first responders in order to provide security. Maybe there's some truth to that or not, but the fact is he showed up.
Yeah,
he showed up, and that is a display of leadership that we have not seen from the president. Eric's right. What would be the problem with doing a flyover? At least cutting your vacation a little bit short and doing a flyover so that you can say, I've surveyed the scene, I've toured the scene, I am in direct talks with the agency heads that are involved in these recovery
with
FEMA,
efforts. You name it. Where's Kanye West now? Every time you turn around, you have Kanye West criticizing George W. Bush and attacking him anytime on live national TV because apparently George W. Bush doesn't care about black people. Well, where's Kanye West now? Because the first black president won't even bother to go to Louisiana or go to any place because it interrupts his freaking golf game.
He wouldn't interrupt his vacation to just make a statement. And honestly, that probably would have been enough right there.
Yeah.
If he had just interrupted his vacation to make some sort of official statement. You know when he did interrupt a vacation to make a statement, though? After the death of Michael Brown in Ferguson.
He's really quick to come forward and speak out when there's a police-involved shooting like Michael Brown.
Or Philando Castile.
Or Philando Castile. He'll go out and he'll do his whole thing, but it's like when there's something to be angry about, he seems really quick.
Well, when you've got an entire city, one of his cities, completely underwater.
Yeah.
40,000 plus homes destroyed.
There's nobody to blame. So what's he going to say?
Right. There's nothing that can be used to foment more agitation and division with this. So what's the point? Why bother? He's busy learning how to surf.
Right. Does this surprise anyone, though? Come on, guys. Does this surprise you, a sheer level of gall, incompetence moronic behavior, sophomoric garbage. But I got to be careful. I'm getting close to some words I know the FCC doesn't want to have on the air.
That's what my dump button's for.
There you go. Why? It is President Obama, and yes, folks, 6 months from now we'll have a new president, regardless of what happens.
Yeah, it's not surprising, but it's disappointing.
It is.
It's disappointing, and it's disappointing that nobody calls him on this. Nobody steps out. Nobody's upset by this. President Bush couldn't do anything right. His entire administration, even when he did do things right, he would get criticized. He got roundly criticized for years based on the Katrina response. Called every name in the book, called a racist on national TV, and everybody just sort of nodded along. Yeah, well, that's our president, President Bush. Meanwhile, nobody utters a peep about this complete and utter lack of leadership from President Obama. In the Star Tribune yesterday, an Associated Press story was printed. Headline is, Obama returning from summer vacation, ready for a busy fall.
What?
He's gearing up for a busy fall.
Can't we just leave him on vacation?
To remember when a president got savaged for taking too many vacations.
Yeah.
And president, he's just, summer vacation's wrapping up. He's sure he's going to have a busy fall.
Just leave him on vacation. He'll do less destruction if he's just not there. He's not been there for 7 years anyway. Why start now?
I think that Obama's just suffering from senioritis. I think that's what this is.
Yeah.
His term's almost
that's
over.
a good way of putting it.
And listen to the bias in this opening paragraph. President Barack Obama is returning from vacation, rested and ready for a busy fall.
What?
Including pressing Congress for money to protect against the Zika virus and fending off lawmakers' attacks over the administration's $400 million leverage payment to Iran. And they put leverage in quotes like it's fake. Okay. They admitted that it was leverage. They admitted that they gave them this money, or they were holding this money until the hostages are released. Another word for that is ransom.
Yes.
But they use leverage and they put it in quotes. And it's not even, and they phrase it in such a way that they discount the legitimacy of it by saying he's going to fend off lawmakers' attacks, those mean lawmakers attacking our rested president right when he gets back from vacation.
So he's going to put on a cape. What color is the cape? Class. What color will the cape be with the big S on his chest? And it's going to be Super Obama for the last, 3 months, and he's going to go to battle. I mean, this is just silly.
Yeah. So it's going to be a lot of work fending off those mean lawmaker attacks.
How about you go to Capitol Hill, spend a couple of weeks, and actually work in a bipartisan manner? That's the thing that bugs me about Mark Dayton, too, is that he won't work with the legislature. He won't work together to get something done. He will rule from up on high, same thing with Obama, and not actually come down and work with legislators to find compromise. This can be done. I can compromise. I've done it before, and I do it again. But it takes leadership to stand up and say, you know what, we're not going to get certain things that we want to get. And we're going to have a special session, or we're not going to have. I mean, come on. This isn't difficult.
This Associated Press story does go out of its way to say that Obama resisted pressure from Louisianans and others to interrupt his vacation to tour the ruins and meet with officials and flood victims. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump filled the void created by Obama's absence, touring the ravaged area with his running mate and helping to unload a supply truck.
Yes. And again, when you do surveys of the media, at least 80 to 90% of the media is in the bag Democrats. So we all know how they write these articles. I wish just once we would get some reporters that want to do their job. Yes, I'm attacking the media again, and that's just because you guys aren't doing your job.
Right.
Period.
Right. You mentioned the death of the special session, which was met with nothing but cheers and applause on this show. I'm glad it's not happening. I'm glad that Kurt Doubt resisted the pressure from Governor Dayton holding that tax bill as leverage in order to try to get House Republicans to agree to fund Southwest Light Rail.
I was torn. I was torn because I have that Highway 12 stuff. That was very important to me.
Well, there was important stuff.
There were good stuff in that bill.
There was important stuff that failed to pass because of Southwest Light Rail. But they did that on purpose. They know it's important. They know the tax cuts are important. Let's get into that in the next segment. I want to get your thoughts on this. So we'll go in a little more detail, a little more depth on the death of the special session, what happened last week. We got Senator Dave Osmek, plus your calls, 651-989-5855. We'll be right back.
Here's our Blue Ox Heating and Air question of the day. Is it hypocritical to oppose a stadium funding plan but still enjoy going to events at that stadium? Vote at TwinCitiesNewsTalk.com or at the Twin Cities News Talk Facebook page.
I don't know. I saw a lot of people giving and receiving grief online, social media over the weekend. There were two big concerts at the new U.S. Bank Stadium, of course.
It was a country weekend to remember, if I understand correctly.
Well, one was the Carpenters, wasn't it, or something like that?
It was the Carpenters and a Beach Boys reunion.
There you go. Got it.
Huge tours. No, it was a country show, and I'm blanking on the name because I don't follow country music at all. Luke Bryan. That's thank you.
Yeah.
Luke Bryan on Friday night, Metallica on Saturday night. So social media was, of course, flooded with a lot of people, enjoying themselves at these shows, taking selfies, taking pictures, talking about the shows, et cetera, et cetera. And with that came some grief from people who said, you opposed the stadium, and how dare you go enjoy an event at it? To which most people responded, look, that's done.
It's already here.
I didn't like the way the funding happened, and I didn't think it was appropriate, but there's nothing to do about it now.
Are they supposed to just drive past it and grumble every day?
Yes.
Well, one of my constituents is Ted Mondale, and I've run into him a couple of different times. Last time was at the Carver County State Fair, or Carver County Fair a couple of weeks ago, and he said, Senator Osmek, we'll have you in for a tour. I'll give you a private tour. You'll like the place. I said, listen, please get it paid off as fast as you can. We'll get it done in 17. We'll have it all paid off in 17 years. And I kept saying, I hope you're right.
No.
I hope you're right. So I'll give him, you know what, I will have an open mind and we'll eventually go in the stadium. Yes, have I been in the Twin Stadium? Yes, I haven't bought a ticket there yet, but I get free tickets every once in a while. But I haven't been in there. But I go to Target Center. That's been taxpayer paid for too. I mean, if you want to kill your lives and be a purist, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not going to not enjoy myself. I'm not going to not go to events that I want to go to. And do I wish that the stadium had been funded differently, privately? Of course I do. I don't think of taxpayer funding of sports stadiums is appropriate. I just don't. I think it's an abuse of taxpayer money. Well, however, that is the world we live in right now. And as long as I don't know which city is going to be the first one to stand up to the NFL or the or Major League Baseball or the NBA or the NHL. I don't know which city is going to be the first one to stand up and go, no. Yeah. No, we're not going to do it. But that's, we're going to have to start see some dominoes fall, because the argument always is, if you're in Minneapolis and the Vikings want a new stadium, we could always move.
Well,
and if you won't pay for the stadium, there's a bunch of cities out there that would love to have us, and that's the pressure that the politicians find themselves under.
And if you stay away from the place and you don't go to any events, and you're not, because when you go there, you are going to be slowly privately funded the thing. If you don't go there and it becomes a steaming dinosaur of a failure, guess where they're coming? Because those bonds are still going to be paid, folks. They're still going to be paid whether you like it or not. So they're going to be coming to the general fund. Oh, that's right. They're currently coming to the general fund. Right. But, it could be worse.
Yeah. So, no, I don't believe it's hypocritical, and I don't think it's fair to give somebody grief because they went to a Metallica concert at U.S. Bank Stadium when they had been vocal opponents of the funding mechanism. I don't know. There's other battles to be fought now. That battle is over.
Yes, but stay vigilant. That's what you have to do. You have to stay vigilant and stay on top of these vigilantes.
Right. Yeah. Fight the battles ahead of you, not the ones behind you.
Yes.
651-989-5855 is the phone number. We learned last week that the special session that Governor Dayton seems to live for special sessions. Have we gone, under the Dayton administration, have we gone in between two legislative sessions without some form of special session?
I don't know.
This might be the first.
It goes on and on. I mean, we had one last year and one this. Well, we were going to have one this year.
The special session this time around is dead. Background is at the last minute, the bonding bill had passed the House. At the last minute, after the House had adjourned, the Senate added some sort of train funding mechanism in there, which essentially killed the bonding bill. And there was a big tax cut bill that passed the House and the Senate, was on the governor's desk. They discovered a wording error that could have been fixed with a quick memo, could have been fixed with a legislative memo. But because of this wording error, Governor Dayton decided to pocket veto the tax cut bill. because he wanted to use it as leverage to get House Republicans back in for a special session to get his choo-choo train funding.
Yes.
Doubt, Bach, and Dayton met several times, tried to negotiate, tried to come up with the terms and agreements for a special session, could never reach an agreement. So last week, Governor Dayton declared the possibility of a special session dead on arrival.
Well,
to which we said,
yeah,
hooray.
Again, I'm torn about the whole situation because if you look west of here on 394, it turns into Highway 12, and we've gone into nauseating detail on how bad that stretch is. It's being worked on. First bill out of the gate next year, yes, Highway 12 funding. I'm going to be pursuing that as I've been pursuing it for the last year and a half. But here's the deal. First, Terry Bonoff is primarily responsible. Her and Ron Latz, two senators, are primarily responsible for the complete collapse of the bonding bill with 15 minutes to go because they pitched a hissy fit and had to have Southwest Light Rail. For 4 years, write this down, folks, for 4 years, we have not had one hearing in the state Senate. I sit on the Transportation and Public Safety Committee. That is the committee of jurisdiction. We have not had one hearing. So, for your friends who are liberals that think this is a smart idea, all you need to do, you don't need to argue the benefits. You don't need to argue what this train is. It's a monumental pit that we're going to be pouring money into.
Right.
There's a couple of things you need to do. One, ask them one question, and it's a simple one, and liberals can't respond to this. Do you think the state of Minnesota should spend over $160 million of your money on any project in Minnesota that hasn't at least had one hearing in the legislature in 4 years? Should we? We're back to $90 million buildings here. Does this sound familiar?
Right.
We did that without any serious. I mean, there was a discussion inside of a finance committee. That was it. Same thing happened with Southwest. Ron Latz brought it up for 6 minutes inside of a bonding bill. There was no bill, there was no vote, there was nothing taken. He discussed it during a... That's not a hearing. A hearing is when you get both sides together, you talk about the facts, you talk about the need, and you have a hearing. We didn't have one single stinking hearing. And now, Senator Bach pulls out from some place, and we're not sure where. He now came out with 4 different funding mechanisms. Well, that's 4 more funding mechanisms than we have seen in the Minnesota State Senate in 4 years. Where did this come from? When is the Committee of Jurisdiction, again, the Senate Transportation and Finance Committee, which has been ruled by Democrats, that's Scott Dibble's committee, who is a big supporter of light rail. Why didn't we hear any of these in committee? Where is the leadership? There is no leadership.
No.
The Senate DFL is completely, and then Senator Bach, to top it all off, Senator Bach actually has the nerve to say, hey, that was the bonding bill was way too rural and not enough metro. Excuse me, we do things in Minnesota based on the need in Minnesota. And oh, by the way, the majority of your senators that we're going to chase down and hunt like the dogs they are and take them out are all in the rural areas. I'm looking forward to the postcards. They're going to go out saying Senator Bach said the bonding bill is too rural. Highway 12, Highway 14. Highway 12 is supposed to be rural now, I guess.
Yeah.
Highway 14, Highway 23. Up in Moorhead, there's an overpass that they were going to be doing and getting dealt with. So we got safety money in there is important. It's too rural. Ugh.
Why doesn't this get hearings? Is it because that if there weren't hearings, then you would have to have DFLers going on the record saying that this is going to be billions and billions and billions of dollars in operating expenses over the course of the next 10, 15 years?
Yeah, they don't want to actually talk about the actual cost. That last year in 2015, I know this is a broken record. I'll do it again because I'm going to educate everyone on this. Last year, the 2 light rail lines that we spent $42 million for operating costs. That is in above what the riders have paid. The riders paid about 23. On top of that, you got the North Star Rail, which is in a bigger pig at $13 million. So between the 3 commuter/light rail lines, we're at $55 million worth of operating costs. Now, you've got Democrats out there saying, well, the state, why can't the county do this? Let Hennepin County do it. Well, Hennepin County has built the Twins Stadium. Hennepin County seems to be on the hook for everything, and the liberals that are on that board, with the exception of Jeff Johnson, don't have their heads screwed on straight enough to understand it. But that being said, out of the $42 million of operating subsidies last year, 23 of that came from the state of Minnesota. Yes, the state of Minnesota has an inherent interest in the operating costs, ongoing operating costs. Why do we have to pass $1.6 billion worth of debt on a line that we don't need? Because we already have good transportation options. Southwest Transit is the primary one that people use. And then I get questioned, well, how about millennials? Millennials like trains. Millennials like trains.
No, they don't.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. That's a myth. That's a myth that politicians and Met Council boards and all these people, all these advocates for more trains, they like to put that forward out there to try to get people on board with the idea. It's not true. There is no data to back that up at all. When you look at where millennials are moving, where they're living, surveys that have been taken, polls that have been taken, this idea that light rail and trains are so important to millennials, it's completely and utterly fabricated.
Well, it even goes beyond that. I'm going to put two things right next to you. I'm going to put the train in this hand. I'm going to put, for studio audience, this is the train in this hand, and this is the Southwest Transit buses in this hand. In the train, you will be going half the speed. It will take you twice as long to get there on the train versus twice the speed on Southwest buses, which incidentally are mostly motor coaches and have Wi-Fi on them. Now, right. You tell me which one millennials are going to take, and I can guarantee you which one it is.
Right.
They're without any question. So if you're building something for millennials, and incidentally, the workforce continues to change, I got people that work for me that work from home 2 days a week. Why? Traffic sort of stinks around here. But more importantly, that's the way the workforce is becoming. You're not tied down to a location anymore,
right,
folks.
Right. More and more jobs have the flexibility to be able to work from your house, or work from a Starbucks or Caribou or any place where you can get a decent Wi-Fi connection. You can do a lot of work there. You can, the workplace is changing. Not everybody's tied to a desk or tied to an office or tied to a specific location anymore. Millennials know that. Millennials understand it. Millennials appreciate that.
And it drives me insane that we have some quote-unquote business leaders, and you know who you are. They probably aren't listening to this. They're probably listening to NPR right now. But you've got business leaders, supposed business leaders, that look at a balance sheet and look at how much of an incredible pig. It's just not the build out of the operating costs continue to go up at 6% a year. It's unsustainable. And how any business leader in this metropolitan area can, with a straight face, tell me, oh, this is a good idea. I question how can you be a business leader if you actually go through and believe that this thing actually makes any sense? And Minneapolis is not the destination for business in Minnesota. More and more companies are building outside the metropolitan ring to start with.
Right, exactly.
It drives me insane. It's crazy.
Yeah, this Southwest Light Rail will benefit a small number of people. There's a small number of people that will use it, and there's an even smaller number of people that are advocating for it. But some of those people that are advocating for it are some of the big businesses. This is designed to get people to their offices, to their corporate headquarters. That's what they want. And if that's the case, you can pay for it.
Crony
you can pay
capitalism.
Pay for it all you want. If you can round up enough businesses, enough private capital to build this stupid choo-choo train, by all means, man, go for it. Good luck.
And how about business leaders? Let's have an open and honest discussion. For heaven's sake, we can't do it in the Senate. We've had 4 years to do it in the Senate. Once again, we haven't had one single stinking hearing in the Minnesota State Senate, not one in the House either, but I live in the Senate. We haven't had one hearing on $1.6 billion of tax dollars. Yes, half of it comes from the federal government. Last time I checked, that money doesn't come from purple unicorns riding in on a cloud. That comes from it comes from China, because we're going to keep floating more and more debt. We're approaching $2 trillion or $20 trillion. And it just keeps going up. Meanwhile, we just keep fiddling as we continue to drive ourselves into a colder Greece. You don't need this. What we do need are roads and bridges that can move goods and services and people all at the same time. Light rail doesn't do that. Nope. We all know it.
Nope. Build, buy more buses.
Yeah.
If you're that intent on expanding public transit options, buy more buses.
I am all in favor of more buses because, and I've said this to a number of different people, and I've gone to some schools and say this, I want you all to be taxpayers. I want you to have a job. I want you to be paying taxes just like the rest of us.
Exactly. 651-989-5855. That is Senator Dave Osmek. I am Andrew Lee. Lumps in there pushing the buttons. We'll be right back with today's Newsbag.